happened here that became unbecoming of people who follow Christ. From the nominating team process through the election of leaders and the delegates, tensions arose to the point of exploding. The details of that time are not as important as the results. The results of this time included departure of a fairly large number of members and attenders, and I don't really even have the number for you. I'm not making that up as much as I know it's significant, but I'm not really sure that we've seen, again, the full effect of people who have decided not to attend here. Including those who left, though, you see, were members of the nominating team, some ministry leaders, and a common question I'm asked is, why did people leave? The only way I can answer that question for you is to ask, or to tell you, I know why people didn't leave. At the end of this little description, I'm going to say to you, if you know someone who left the church, the best way for you to find out why they left is talk to them. I can't really tell you, but here's what I know didn't happen. What didn't happen in the last few months is people did not leave because the nominating process or elections were conducted in a fashion not keeping with your bylaws. They did not leave because there was a moral failure within the leadership or within the pastor's life. And they did not leave because the church was on the mission of making Jesus known. In other words, I just want to say I'm saddened. I despair. It's crazy. I'm glad you don't have to walk where I walk, but there are days when it's really despairing in my spirit to know people left. It's hard to understand from that perspective. So I am saddened by each and every person who has chosen not to attend here. As soon as I say that, I want you to say, people make individual decisions for their reasons, and we have to trust God in the whole process. We have to trust that they may have been led by God. But I will say that there is the need for time to pass. Time has a great factor, if you will, in helping us to determine truth. Let's not jump to conclusions. Let's let things settle and keep asking the questions that we need to ask. In that way, again, I addressed some of the reasons that I've heard for people leaving, elections, nominations that have, but to me, even I would say of the people who left, I would say 10% of them I've had a personal conversation with. 90% of them are not communicative with me, or vice versa. They haven't really reached out, okay? So the past was difficult, especially from February 21st on. It was very difficult. That's when, in my description, that's when the top of the volcano blew off, right before we did the elections. It's been difficult to still, to this day, understand some of the very deep and passionate feelings of people. And there's a lot of passion out there. And I would encourage you, as I wrote a couple of weeks ago, that even Jesus knew that you need to hear 2 or 3 people on the same subject before you make a judgment. We all have a story, and it's coming from a perspective. So, are there any questions about that part of what happened in the past before I go into where we're going in the future, or where we're at presently? That directly affects the present situation. I love it. And don't worry about it. This is a safe group. We're here to answer questions today. I put this together so that you would have a chance, and it may feel uncomfortable to you, but we need to be able to be at a level with each other where we're honest and open. Okay, so some of this is very obvious. You're like, you didn't need to tell me that, Pastor. But so where did that leave the church? The answer is multifaceted and is very involved. First, let me tell you the facts. We had left people attending the church. That means less attenders means less volunteers and less financial supporters. Are we okay with that? It's just logical, right? So what you see now as you come to church is you see the results of less people. You see the results of strain in ministry and strain in finance, because we were running at a level that needed a lot of people to make it work and a lot of resources. So because some people are not here, it has strained those different levels. Some of the facts are like this, and especially with the financial part, and that's really, it is not the main part of what we're here for, by the way, but it is very, very important that you know where that is. The first part of the year, big time struggle in that. We, at one point, the first kind of glimpse we had, and if you want a lot of specifics on this, you're financially numbers curious, Dwayne Anderson has done yeoman work in discovering where we are financially. Dwayne has investigated things. Dwayne has crunched numbers and brought reports, and so he knows a lot more than I do. But at first, when Dwayne first brought this to us, we were about $35,000 behind if you compared 2020 giving to 2021. That was the first glimpse we got, which translates into this about 30% behind. Okay? And I would say that that is probably, in some ways, there's a parallel between number of people who left and number of percentage you are behind. Okay? We haven't gone that far to figure that out. Now, here's the good news. That is not continuing. In fact, Dwayne, as was that Tuesday night, Wednesday night, when we were talking this through again, pointed out that the last 2 months we've seen significantly better financial picture as a church. Here's some practical things that you look at now into the future, right? Practically this. First of all, we have roughly a $7,000 monthly mortgage payment. It's the per month to pay for these facilities. We have now entered into a process of renegotiating that loan, and we expect approval, right, Dwayne? We pray for approval. If so, that payment would be reduced to $4,200. And that is the ability that we have. And again, what I'm telling you now is the management, if you will, of in the present, what do you have to do? So we have to reduce our outgo. Because our income has been reduced, we reduce the outgo. Just as recently as this Thursday, Linda came into my office and said that we had 5 phone lines, and we now have 2, and that's saving us $140 a month or something like that. So that's the work that's being done right now. It's kind of, the rocks are being turned over, and they're saying, okay, could we do that for less? Could we do that for less? And these are things that don't take this wrong, they all do, but they don't directly impact our reaching people. You see, like the phone lines, what we discovered was when we put our new system in, okay, we'll put one in the kitchen because there used to be one there. Well, it hasn't been used at all. So that was an easy takeout. You see what I mean? There are things that we weren't maybe looking under the microscope, and now we've started to unpack those to make us a financial picture. Another interesting moment that will help you gain perspective is Pastor Alex it started in Wichita. He started today in Wichita, okay, his first Sunday. So he's not here, okay? This is genius stuff, like, I didn't figure that out. Yeah, he's not here. Therefore, the monies that were being paid to Pastor Alex for salary and support, if those monies were not paid out the last 2 months, we would have finished in the black in both of those months here. So perspective. We are now moving forward. We do not have Pastor Alex. Therefore, where we are financially right now is pretty good. It's actually a pretty positive picture that is different, by the way, than you may have faced in a circumstance like ours. When you go through a church changeover, oftentimes it takes a long time for the finances to rebound. So we are pleased to say we see rebound. We also understand as a board, and I understand as a pastor, I'm not looking at all of you and saying, okay, it's your fault, hurry up and give more. I appreciate the fact that some of you will. I appreciate the fact that you'll see a need and say, that's how I serve my Lord in my church, is by more giving. But honestly, for a while, we will all do our part, but here's the expectation. As the church now begins to grow again, this process will pick up. We do not expect to have our giving level where they are now months in the next year like it is now. But presently, this is where we are. So that presently helps us understand laying out the future plans. And so your board and myself are all under that idea that where are we going in the future? Let me give you 5 areas that were talked about in your surveys as areas of need and what's happening there. First area was communication, always an area within the church. There's a feeling that not enough consistent communication has been given. We continue to work in the office and as leaders on communication. Let me remind you all the means of communication that we now have in place. And I think part of this is that you need to hear these every once in a while to go, oh, I could have gone there. Because there's several ways you could learn about what's going on here. Weekly newsletter, Facebook page, the announcements we do in the service, a website. We have a board email that you could email a board member at board@milanfreemethodistchurch.org. at any time and say, hey, I don't know what's going on. Board will respond to you. I have a personal email. There's an office email. We have phone services. We do direct mailings, and we do video messages. So right now, we look at this variety of ways of communicating, and we know we're still not doing enough. And it's okay, because communication will always be something that we have to keep getting better at. Okay, and you will see some of that as we go into the future, but I'm saying this to you to make you aware that we understand. Thank you for bringing that to our attention, but we know we will continue to work on communication. Number 2 is discipleship. One of the things that absolutely hit the skids from COVID was the ability to disciple. And it means this: our forms of discipleship before that were our Sunday schools and our Bible studies, and they all came to a screeching halt. So we all know at the leadership level, this is a main priority for the church, is to go back into discipleship. The things I can tell you that are in place now at the beginning of this are far from what this will look like in the future. Coming this fall, we have an all-church discipleship that will start in the middle of September based around some teachings of Priscilla Schreier, Tony Evans. It's not called the Armor of God, though, is it, Carrie? What's it called? Armor of God? Okay, called the Armor of God. And what will happen, this is a midweek thing. It'll happen on a Wednesday night. There'll be men's group, women's group, children's groups, teenage groups, and we will all be being discipled in this one deal called the Armor of God. 8 weeks? 8 weeks long. Okay, so we have that on the horizon for September. It will be kicked off in the second week of September. And if you were here last week, Pastor Thomas was here. He will kick that off with a weekend called Prayer Warrior Boot Camp. We will have a teaching on Friday night, Saturday morning, and Sunday morning he'll preach, and it is to launch a prayer ministry that couples with this Armor of God thing. So that's coming right away in September. Between now and then, this is the best I can give you between now and then. This is what the Word says. You who have this experience with God, lead a younger believer. Discipleship doesn't have to be done in group. In fact, it's most effective done small, one-on-one, one-on 2 or 3. If you want to learn more about God now, find a partner. Ask somebody, can we have lunch every week? Can we have breakfast every week? Do you have a Tuesday night thing that we could do together? Do you know a book we could read together? Ask. If you have that hunger for discipleship, just be bold. Just come out there and say to someone, hey, Bill, can you meet for an hour every week? And I know what Bill would say. He would say, let me check with Sharon. No, Bill would say, absolutely, I got time for that. I got a few years under my belt. I'd love to share what God's done in my life with you. There's discipleship, everyone. At its base core, discipleship is just another person walking with another person about the things of God. The third thing is pastoral care. The care of the body is the task of the pastor and everyone in the body. The board is working right now to form what we'll call a care team. And so I want you to see this in this vision of it. It would be the pastor and this care team who will be caring for the body of people. We know that there's too many people for one person, if you will, and it's actually an unbiblical model to have a one-person caregiving system. So we're developing people. And if that's your gift mix, if you're that person who would love to care for someone where they're not feeling good, send a card of encouragement, do that, this is your team, this pastoral care team. But we are aware that pastoral care is necessary and is a vital part of the body. I preached about this a couple weeks ago in Acts chapter 6. You have to care for people as you lead people and as you disciple people. Number 4, the staffing part of the church. You just heard about the staffing part in kind of like a sideways version. The board was aware of Pastor Alex's decision to leave a couple of months ago, and the board began a process then of what we should do, what's the next place. And at this present time, the board we haven't interviewed, but we did a Zoom interview with someone. But you heard where the board is. When the board saw the financial picture of the church, the board put a halt to any further hiring, interviewing processes because we saw that financial picture. So currently, the board, and with myself a long time, we are looking and saying, this is a very difficult thing, everyone. It's probably the most difficult thing we're doing right now, is to say, Lord, when do we go in faith to a staff position? And when do we go practically, we couldn't support that staff position financially? Do you see the moment here, everyone? Rock in a hard place kind of thing? Please pray that God makes that clear. Please pray that God makes it clear. I am so encouraged that when I meet with the people on the board and Dwayne's, over his head in the financial picture, that everything is being considered when you look forward in your church, including staffing. I'm an old guy. I don't want to do this alone. But we don't need to throw money at someone when we don't have the money, if you will. Do you get that picture? So our prayer at the board level, make it clear, God. Give us signs. Give us the best step of faith to take. You will be fully informed about those steps as they come. You may see, if this process continues, someone come. They may preach. They may come for an interview. It could happen in any ways. But right now, we are on pause at the staffing thing. And to answer the questions of the survey, we have drawn up a job description for this person. And yet that is still fluid too, because frankly, the areas and the things that person does are still evolving, and this will come in the end of my little thing about the future, okay? But I understand that is very pertinent question on your hearts, and that's where I wanted it. Last thing, there were 5 things. Vision. I'm very pleased to tell you this, and it's not an under wraps thing, but to bring back to your attention that currently all the board delegates and area leaders are in a coaching relationship with the Southern Michigan Conference to develop a mission statement, create a structure to help carry that mission out. This started at the end of last year, and we have now been in this about 6 months, and you heard me say this morning that we have developed a new mission statement as part of what we're doing. So any of you who would ask about future vision, thank you for asking. Without a vision, the people perish. You got to have the vision as a church. You got to know you're on mission. It's absolutely being developed right now, but it is clear, it is concise, it's measurable, and we're excited about the fact that we have been developing this mission. It's very unique to me. When I first started in ministry, they would say things like, well, pastor, get a vision and help the church to follow it. And now, 18 people have been involved in a process, so it's been a little bit of a process. You put 18 people together and say, what do you think the church should do? You have 18 different answers. But I'm going to tell you where your church leadership is right now. Our coach said, man, your process has been great. Your people are on board, and they have developed this in a fashion that is something that everyone can own. Okay, that's the present moment. Any questions about what's happening presently? Staffing, finances, anything about what we're doing right now? Wow, probably the best presentation ever. No one's even questioning. This is good stuff. And wait, let me couch that by saying this. You're going to have questions later too. No problem. Like I mentioned to you, board@mfmchurch.org, my email, office email, phone call, great. We expect that one to come on the drive home. Oh, I wish I would have asked. Please just shoot us back a message. Okay, moving forward, this is what I see. The church leadership is committing to see a clear and compelling mission put in place. Some of the practical steps include aggressive effort to reduce our expenses, like you saw. We'll continue that. An effort to recruit and train more volunteers. If there's one thing that has emerged positively that you have witnessed as those who are here is the emergence of people you're just going, how did Lucas ever learn to do that? And Carrie's the only one who knew. But you know what that really is given the opportunity, people walk into the places God's wanted them to be and has equipped them for and trained them for, and we continue to push that forward. Everybody here is a minister. You are all in the priesthood of believers. You are all gifted. You are all capable. The future looks much different than the past. The past was heavy top-down, pastor-led, pay the pastor to do this. The future is partnership. The future is all engaged. Our future is directly connected to how many people engage in serving the church. The smaller the number, the smaller the amount of people we can reach. The larger the number, the more people we can reach. You're gifted. You're talented. And by the way, you have ideas that nobody else has that could be the next gateway to somebody finding Jesus. How many of you were here when American Heritage Girls started? I know Jenny was, right? You remember American Heritage Girls, right? They closed down this year. Yeah, isn't that a bummer? But you know what it's about? There are shelf life to the ways that God gives us gateways to reach people. And it's okay when that shelf life is done. And it's okay. So I met with the leaders of that. What was the outcome of American Heritage Girls? How many girls went through there? I don't know. I'm gonna say hundreds, right, Jenny? Yeah. So let's, discipled, taught the things of God. You know what impresses my heart? The two people who ended up leading it both found Jesus because of that. And in a couple of weeks, they'll be here, and I'm going to make a little presentation to them, and I'm going to say, that ministry closed down. Was that bad? No. It was a great thing, an eternal thing, okay? And my point is, there's another American Heritage Girls out there. There's another X out there. What's it going to be? And who is it going to be? I mean, Crystal and Margie, who's it going to be? Who are the people you're going to reach because we walk into another avenue of the world, okay? Looking forward, we see much more emphasis on technology. I don't know how to say this to you in ways that you might understand, but everything I read is talking about this moment now that the pandemic magnified. It's not just a moment of streaming, it's the way technology is the first way that people come to your church now. This is going to be bizarre for some of us because we're too old. I think right? But you know what? Everything you do now at a certain age, everything you do, you check out online first. You buy your car, what do? I buy fishing equipment. I go to these things, you know what they have on the bottom? Reviews. And people tell me, worked, didn't work. They're saying the same thing now. Look at your church the same way. Through technology, a gateway, if you will, I was telling Kathy yesterday, an on-ramp to in-person attendance, creating on-ramps through technology. So let me talk about, just for a second, an on-ramp. Here's an on-ramp that happened here a couple weeks ago, Family Fun Night. How many people that you know that don't go to church think Family Fun Night when they think of church? Very few, right? That means we have an audience that we could reach through technology to show them what your church is really about. So now you have this family fun night happening, and you have this photographer, and he's got this camera on his head, right? GoPro. You ever see, your kids are all over this, by the way, GoPro videos. And then you have another one who's filming, and someone has the genius. They sit down at a computer, and they put this 5-minute thing together about our church's family fun night. And you know what? Someone sees that and goes, I never thought church would be like that. I'm going to check that out. You see what just happened through technology? It's an on-ramp. It's not an end, it's an on-ramp. Pastors who are using technology are able to teach in 5-minute segments. You remember the beginning of the pandemic? I did something every day, and Master Alex and I put it up. There's a movement to go back to that, for me to be able to teach more and to train more in little clips of video. So technology. Now, this is where this is going to go. 2 places. One, the Lord will supply. In other words, there are people here who already have tech abilities. But 2, we may be drawing in non-church people to help us out with technology. Just talking off the top of my head, but if we went to Milan High School and interviewed a bunch of 17 and 18-year-olds, guess where they would be technology compared to the me's? Light years ahead, right? They're already creating videos online. They are already doing stuff. Wouldn't that be cool to see some high school students in here, some college students in here running tech programs, and they go, I don't even go to this church, I just help out with tech. Well, be careful. Because when someone's in the house, they are hearing the message. Okay? So just dreaming with you, technology will be a lot bigger part of what we do going forward. Live streaming will continue, media-driven, our website and social media. As I consider the church, I see here as the glowing source of light in our community. I presented a vision to our conference. I was part of a training, and I was asked to present a vision for my church to planning churches, and this is what I see. I see this as the glowing point of hope, but I look into my community and I see points of hope all over the place in my community. I see them in households, in coffee shops, in high schools, in elementary schools, and everywhere. My dream is that everywhere I look, there's a point of hope because you're there. because you're trained and equipped to be there. I think of like Emily playing ball, and I think how many people go to play ball, follow their kids to those games, right? You know, I know Brian and Kathy are there. There's a point of hope there. I don't mean that as pressure. That's what they are. They're salt and light. Brian's a little salty. We all know that. But can you see your world like this? Can you see the encouragement of each other that wherever you are, there's a point of hope? There's a point of hope. I mean, Kathy and I are invested in our high school at a level of coaching. Guess what? We think we are there. We think we're points of hope. We think there that God will open the doors to young people's lives, to parents' lives, that we can spread the hope of Jesus. Okay, I see my community like that going into the future. I see this partnership between the church and the pastor and God, that we're all partnering together. That we've lost this idea of who gets paid and what the position is, and we're all partners in this ministry together now. And that because of our partnership, we are also patters on the backers and huggers. We encourage when things is going great, and we hug when things aren't so good. But to that end, we lose the competition, and we lose the moment of position-oriented stuff. Well, I'm the leader of. And we become those people who know that Jesus came not to be served, but to serve. That my position ultimately as lead pastor is servanthood. I serve you. And when I lose that idea, then I have lost the idea of what God's called me to. When we lose the idea of serving each other. So I see into the future that servanthood and that passion to serve. And like I mentioned earlier, I see us as a group of people who become that group of people known by their love. I got crazy ideas for this, y'all. I got crazy ideas just like going to the school and loving on those people. And I hope that you see that as, this is as simple as being in the presence of God. I came up with that idea walking one day. I listened to my radio and my country music station, the only station I listen to besides Christian, because it's almost Christian. I was listening to it, and they're talking about teachers and the great things that they do. And here I was for an hour walking down the road, and God said to me, what are you going to do for teachers? Here's something easy you can do. Celebrate what they've done. This has been the most rough year of their life. And Molly Jepson, who's a teacher, I went to Molly. I said, Molly, what can I do? And she said, oh, that would be great. So there's about 40 of them that we're going to love on this week, because that is how I want my church to be known. I want people to say, who were those people? And they go, well, those people go to the Milan Free Methodist Church. You see, the vision that we had before was, oh, they got great preaching there. Oh, their music is fantastic. 40% of the people in your town will never come to this church. I don't care what you do. They're not coming. 40% of 6,000, what is that? 2,400, right? They're not coming. How many people did Jesus die for? How many people is Jesus willing that would perish? For he is not willing that any should perish. Do you see that 40% in there anywhere? Yeah. So you know what Jesus says? You better get out there and talk to those people. How do you talk? By loving. How do you reach 40% of the people who would never come here? You love them. You care for them. You give stuff to them. You serve them. I'm looking at Labor Day weekend, and I'm saying, you know what we should do? We should have a free garage sale. Want to have a free garage sale? Sort of oxymoron, right? Free garage sale. But we did one in Williamston every Memorial Day weekend. Church would gather their stuff. We'd fill our parking lot and give it all away. And people would say, oh, I got to pay for this. And we would say, what kind of weird moment would that be for a church to ask you to pay? But you know what we gained a reputation as? Oh, that's that group of people who every Memorial Day, if my kids need some clothes, they'll have some clothes for them. Can you imagine going into winter with the number of people we have in our community who need boots, clothes, and hats, and the number of hats and boots I have in my house? Right? No, I got to wear the black coat today because I got a pair of jeans on. I got to wear the green coat today. I got to wear that. We're all like this, aren't we? Even men, by the way, April. Even men do this, okay? Fashion-conscious men like me. Possibly not Ian, but fashion-conscious men. But, right, we have so much surplus as people. What if God said that surplus is to bless someone else with? By the way, that's a biblical concept. That's not actually something I made up. Right? Okay, that's enough for me. Anything else that you'd like to hear about what's happening? Bill?
I understand that some people have left church, and they've got vacancies. We've also had people fill those vacancies and volunteers. I'd like to see in the future way of keeping other people to take over that position in case something like this happens again. We're not caught with nothing to do.
So to Bill's point, it is a view forward that the church needs to be better at sustainability, and sustainability is created when you can seamlessly move from one leader to another leader. It means that when you create systems that only that present leader knows, they're not sustainable systems because nobody else knows what to do when they leave. So in each area of the ministry now, it's a come alongside place where, let's say it's Kathy and Jamie, and they're leading the women's ministry, which they are. Their deal is to find a couple of other ladies to bring along with them so that, Kathy and Jamie, they get new jobs or whatever it is. And they say, I can't do that anymore. And they say, oh, we have 2 people already in line. Actually, Adam, being the head of security now, that's exactly how it happened with Adam, where when Bob and Cheryl decided to move on, Bob said, I've been working with this guy Adam, and I'm going to think Adam can be our next security, and it passed seamlessly. Adam knows what, so that is an overall view of every ministry area, that when you have to be the person there, you can't take a vacation now. No, literally, it's like being a dairy farmer. My father-in-law is a dairy farmer. He's a crazy guy. Like, we can't go. We got to get home. We got to milk the cows. Every day the cows have to be milked. So they hardly ever took vacation. It's somewhat in ministry, if you only have one person, you've done that to yourself. Well, I can't go because they need me. No, ministries will only be sustainable because teams of people have joined together and they're transferring the leadership amongst themselves. We good? Excited for the future of your church? You should be. You should be. It was intentional that I preached on Caleb today because there were days when I thought there's 5 times as many people against us as with us right now. It's not true, but I felt that way. But I saw this morning was exactly the opposite. The vast, vast, vast majority of people believe in the Milan Free Methodist Church because they want to be part of something God's doing. And it's no mistake that you're all here today because you are all pledging, if you will, your allegiance, not to the pastor, but to the church. Listen, Jesus said, I'll build my church. He didn't say I'll sustain that guy's ministry. I'll make that denomination. I think he was talking specifically at this local level. I'll sustain those people who follow me fully and are filled with the Holy Spirit. And they're not going to be the most talented, gifted, smartest. I mean, every day you come here to listen to what I say on a Sunday, you can go home and listen to hundreds of people who are a lot better than me. I mean, a lot better. And how do I know that? Because I listen to them all week long. I'm not ashamed of that. That's the best thing going right now. You can go, I got this dude at my church, he's kind of wacky. Yeah, he's okay, but man, I was listening to Charles Stanley this week. Man, I was listening to. Guess what we're all saying? The same doggone thing. You get that? There's just some specially gifted people that God put in their giant ministries, giant things. That's God's choice. Our deal is he put us in Milan. Milan. Great place. But I will tell you that we got a lot of great work we can do. And I believe that you go down there to that fair this week and see that parade. All I see is, oh my gosh, look at these people who need Jesus. Look at them all. Look at them all. You know what month it is this month? Who knows what month it is? Pride Month. What do you think about that? What an opportunity. Oh my gosh, what an opportunity. What an opportunity. That's how I see it. I go by those houses with those flags and I say, oh Jesus, what an opportunity. You know why? Because most of them don't know a true story about Jesus. Most of them think Jesus is opposed. Most of them think, my Twitter yesterday had a statement on it that said, don't buy your chicken sandwich from Chick-fil-A because Chick-fil-A is a group of people who believe that all queer people should burn in hell. Wow. Do you know what I said? Oh, I got a lesson to teach some people. Because if I'm a follower of Jesus who is not willing that any should perish, how many people do you think I'm hoping burn in hell? If I'm a true follower of Jesus? 0. Irregardless of preference of gender, irregardless of what flag they have in their front yard, I am committed to no one burning in hell. I just laughed at that statement. I said, look how far off people are. They believe Jesus followers are like that. We have a story to tell everyone. We have to tell a better story. We have to tell a story about grace. We have to tell a story about mercy. We have to accept people exactly where they are if we expect them to believe the message we're telling them. You cannot walk into someone's arena. I cannot walk into the high school where I coach girls who are from 14 and 15 years old to 18 and say, oh, by the way, first you got to love those girls. You got to figure out where they're coming from. You got to see the pressures on their lives. You got to see that if you're not of this particular mindset in high school, you are ostracized. You are shoved out. You are pushed to the side. That's pressure like you can't imagine. And that pressure is coming from culture. And guess what culture believes? Therefore, we have the problem. And then you infiltrate Jesse Hoskins, Molly Jempson, April Rauscher. You infiltrate those systems with believers. And by the way, you support them to no end. You go to football games you don't want to go to. You figure out how to say to a teacher, you're the best thing that's ever happened to kids, because they're out there alone most of the time, at risk of their job. If they say the wrong thing, they're done. Kathy, last volleyball tournament of the year, one of the players said, hey, I want to have all of my team kneel during the national anthem. Woo, was she hot. Woo-wee. I had to calm her down and say, you're going to have to let them. If you want to coach again, you're going to have to let them. Because if you do the wrong thing at this moment, you're out. You know what happened? And she had a locker room talk with her girls and said, listen, it's a good thing to believe in things, but be careful that you don't do it for the wrong purposes. And it was amazing what happened. She allowed choices to be made, and the vast majority of her team made a choice not to kneel. They're right, but what she emphasized was their rights that they could express in the way that she keeps influencing. She's keeping to be light and salt. All right, appreciate y'all. Thanks for the extra time. I know your lunches or dinners are burned, but McDonald's is open. Bladen, McDonald's are open.